Welcome to the Activation Nation podcast, where we talk all things business, mindset, momentum, and what it really takes to build up the life that you love. I'm your host, Mindy Trimble, and I am so excited today. I have joining me presidential Blue Elam. Blue, I think this is the first time that I have had you as a guest on the podcast since I have been doing it. Is this your first time doing the Activation Nation podcast?
It is. I think in this official capacity, it's fun because a lot of times we'll get talking to people and they're like, I heard you or I listened to you, and I love it when people come up because we share a lot of things and I don't always know who it helps or when it helps somebody, but there's been times people have shared stuff because they'll grab pieces and parts and build stuff. But this is the first official one on here. But I love the fact that some of these things get recorded and done, and we can continue to help and bless people's businesses without having to be face to face and without having to put that time in over and over again. It's just something that can go out there and touch people continually. So this is awesome. Absolutely. So thanks for having me on.
I'm thrilled that you were able to be here. And, you know, we've kind of been really keeping Blue busy here recently. We just had Momentum Academy in Vegas. And that's what we're talking about today, or what we're focusing on today, is just what it was like, and some highlights, I guess you could say, just kind of recapping the event and some highlights that happened. And if you weren't there, we will do our best to try and paint the picture. But as we all know, there is nothing like really being in the room and feeling the energy and seeing the faces and the hugs and all of the things. So if you weren't there, make sure you get to the next event. But, and if you were, I hope you had an absolutely amazing time and took away a lot of things from it. So, Blue, let's just kind of jump in. Tell me, like, I mentioned there's nothing like actually being in person and being there at the event. So tell me just your takeaway, like your feeling that you took away from the event, the energy or the experience, just the overall vibe that you felt while you were there.
Yeah, thank you. This is the fact that it was just, the setting is fun. Vegas is one of those places that just brings out, you know, just that loud and fun and exciting. And I think people come and a lot of times I think I just teach people to attend all events as a consistently, like they're non-negotiable. You just got to be there because what the truth is, we just don't know. We just don't know what they're going to get from it. And in my mind, what an event does, and this event specifically, was we go from you know these front room, living room meetings and little one-on-ones and a Zoom call. And sometimes people think LifeVantage, the industry, they just think too small. I know I did when I first got involved with the industry. You know, it was one of those things where I just had this concept of what this might be, you know, have a little better health with some products. And it was just kind of this little box that my friend was doing. What events seem to do to me now is we get there and this is one of the places where we as consultants in the field rely on a little bit of that, the group energy and corporate putting these together, because we see something bigger when we go. And I say we as a collective. We have people that will say, I'm going to go with my friend for their thing, right? And They show up at an event like this, and it's bigger than they thought. They realize how big this actually is, and I love it when people leave there with this in mind. It's I'm part of something, right? Look what I'm in. They take that ownership and that excitement. If it can truly lead from someone from my friend's thing to something that I own, and this is bigger than I thought, and I need to go hurry, there's an urgency, then I think we did our job. And I think this event was exactly that. If you weren't there, we always do our best to bring that back and look what we learned. But us sharing our nuggets and our gold nuggets isn't going to help everyone. I mean, we all relate to someone, pieces and parts of people, but you have enough presenters from stage that someone who doesn't relate with me will relate with someone else, and there's something for everyone. And I think that's what we had here. We had a very big variety of backgrounds and people who got on stage with different personalities. I think the message was very united and very consistent and concise, and that helps. And then you add in the fact that people leave an exciting event saying, I just saw something big and I'm signed up in this, like I can do this. And I think ownership is the word I would take away
the
my friends
biggest.
thing, ownership, let's go do this is what I'm hoping they take from there, and that turns into action, and then we have a successful event. So
Right. Oh, I totally agree. And you were absolutely right. It's whether you are a fan of Vegas or not so much, it regardless, it does just kind of bring the hype and the excitement and, the loudness, like you said. And so it really was a fun location and created a really fun, exciting vibe overall. Well, you mentioned that we had a lot of great topics. I want to kind of start with the workshops. We had 3 workshops that we had available there that everyone that attended was able to go to. And we had 3 amazing presenters and teachers that got up and presented on these topics. We had the power of the invite with Marcy Steiner. We had the Evolve Compensation Plan overview with Tyler Daniels. And then we had the principles and behaviors of how to hit your next rank with Rob and Summer Smolik. So let's just kind of talk about those for just a minute. And I know, Blue, these 3 topics that I just mentioned are things that I'm guessing you live and breathe every single day and have, part of your regimen or part of your teaching with your team and learning yourself. But what were some things that really kind of stood out with the workshops and maybe some things that maybe your team members said or that you took away from each of those?
well, I'll just there's a couple that really hit home to me, and this is one of those things too. And I love getting on this call because we're trying to talk to everybody, but
Yeah.
because we take away things that are so personal, we always relate and things just hit home. There was a point in my business where it's taking notes on the invite and would have just been soaking it up, and that's what I got from my team. Was like, wow. They just said, "Wow." I asked somebody how, because I came into the part of that one. I had to talk to some team, like we were back and forth. But when I asked
Yeah.
about that, and at different levels, because they presented it 3 different times in different groups, and I noticed there's certain groups. I teach these in phases, and there's a phase of your business where learning the invite that Marcy taught was it's the first major step. I mean,
It's
I have somebody
crucial.
coming to my house to do a presentation. I need to fill the room and I need to learn to invite. I don't have to know a lot. I don't have to dig through the details. I just got to get them there.
Yeah.
And I just heard wow, like the detail, the thought process behind that, and when I say business forward message, I don't mean to distract from a product forward message. I just think that the invites were very complete in the sense that come look what we're doing, not just come look at one piece of the business, but come look what LifeVantage has to offer in total. And I think that's the key that people took away was these invites are let's bring them in and give them the full picture. Then
Hmm.
we can work on the other steps, which is following up and resolving those concerns and helping them sign up and get involved. But the first step is, then even before the invite, we need to have a good database and we need to get good at, those relationships and teeing it up right. So invite's kind of in the middle of there, but it's the biggest skill. And I just heard wow over and over again. And if we can learn that skill at least early on in our business, and it's going to help us a lot. And it's fun because it's not that we ever stop inviting. It's just the fact that there's times where us focusing on a group of people or doing a large training for 4 hours on a Saturday is the larger focus.
Absolutely.
But the part of
It
my
ebbs and
team and
flows,
group that
right?
was
In your
there to
business.
learn invite,
Yeah.
they loved it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Um,
I think mastering that invite it's a constant thing, right? That you're always trying to get a little better at and always trying to meet people where they're at and hear and understand what people need. And yeah, it's a constant thing that I think that we're all working on.
Absolutely. And it's a skill that it evolves a little bit too. There's things that we can invite to now in the business that 15 years ago weren't even part. This
Yeah.
activation nation concept, right? We talked about cellular activation and we had a more granular message. And as we've added products and we've added people and growth and the industries evolved a little bit, you add all of that. And it's not that the specifics have to change on how we invite, but the things we get to invite to and what we own here at LifeVantage have evolved, and they're bigger and better. And so reviewing that for those seasoned LifeVantage folks, right, versus those brand new people, I think the message was for everyone. I think that was powerful.
Absolutely. And then Tyler shared about the compensation plan, which is always applicable, right? We're always wanting to make sure that you're not leaving any money on the table, that you're really taking advantage of what is there and available to you. And he does a great job at explaining that and showing don't leave
Absolutely.
anything out there.
Tyler's one of those
And
presenters that can take information and just lay it out there for you in a way that's understandable. He's really good at reading the crowd, who's in the room. He can, because these crowds came in based off of rank, it gave you a little idea as to how long they've been in the business, maybe what some of their strengths are, what some of their struggles are. And I think that helps breakout sessions to be more applicable because we have a message directly to a group. And then you take someone like Tyler who helped design and develop the enhancements in our comp plan, and to be able to hand those to you in a little box, right? And even issue what I think the biggest piece of that was issue challenges within there. And are you willing to do this? And to simplify it, you realize that's only, one person for this long, for this many days and this
yeah,
many months. And I think people are like, oh my gosh, that just took this packet of information that we call our compensation or evolve plan and put it in something that I can break that down to what I'm doing today or this week or this month to maximize that the full potential within that plan. So not only was it very good and to listen to and easy to understand, then we take it to a step that again it drove action. And as long as we're taking information, internalizing it, getting excited, and we leave there willing to go apply it, I think we did. Marcia with the invite, and then Tyler did. Came home with that with the compensation, and taking something so big and putting it into a box. He did a great job, and I heard that from so many people. It's like, wow, I didn't realize. Sometimes I didn't realize it's that simple, and sometimes I didn't realize there's that much. I didn't realize we could do that much and have that much
there was that
potential.
much available, right?
Yeah, and so I didn't know that. So if I tweak my way of thinking a little bit or do a little different behaviors, I can open up some doors in the compensation that I didn't know about. And so I think it was a success.
And then I think the Smolix, like you said, you used the word simplicity and simple. Man, they just really, talk about taking what can feel really overwhelming sometimes. Sometimes we get in the weeds with, this business, and there's so much available out there as far as trainings and seminars and all the things and apps and all the things that are going to solve all your problems and help with your business. And man, they just kind of grabbed that and said, nope, let me show you a really simple way to do this. And I loved that.
Yeah, they've been great leaders in our organization. They've been great students. I'll just put there, as many businesses as they've owned and had, and as much experience as they bring, more than most I know in the industry. Not that they brought industry experience, they just brought business experience, and that shows because there's a confidence there, there's a maturity, and then they just had to say, well, what's the new rules we're playing under? What's the new guidelines in this industry? I understand business, I understand people, and they were very open and vulnerable, right, about sharing how they learned about people and mistakes they've made and things like that in the past to get to the point where they can actually flourish in this industry in LifeVantage with a system that's that simple. And they weren't, it wasn't clicking through 100 slides. It was one of those things that's like, hey, if you guys can learn and grab hold of these 5 things, take them home, own them, watch what happens to your business. And I really think that good leaders are, they're close enough to relate, but they're just far enough ahead to inspire. And I think that's what they did. They were willing to relate by saying, hey, we've been there, we've done this, we've done that, and even Rob, people were tough, and I didn't like people, and he's just dealing with life, and he shared some of his personal stories and stuff he's dealt with in his family. And everyone's can relate with that somehow. They may put it in a different box or a different trial or issue, but to come out of that and realize that this wasn't only a solution, it was a very good way to apply all those things that he had learned. And now those were set aside, and this became the main focus. And now they're on stage, teaching. I remember watching him when he first got involved and watching them find each other through this business, and then watching them flourish. And those 5 things were awesome. And in a nutshell, I think these are the ones that I took home, because these are the ones I try to chant. And for part of my story is that I have people down in our organization, way down, 40, 50 levels down, chanting the same 5
Mm,
principles. And principles have to have some skills to accomplish them. And I do
yeah.
think we do principles long enough, and we don't always. The bad part is if we expect a result next week. I'm going to do these principles, but next week I hope a change happens. The reality is we just do the principles and over again, and the results, they come, right. And I think that's what the whole company is going to be doing with right now. Is we may shift some things and send some people down the right path and get going, but it takes a little bit to follow. So those 5 things, and actually in my notes, I wrote these down, but they talked about the importance of doing 15 presentations every month, making
Yep.
sure that every other night we're in front of a group of people sharing the message. It keeps us sharp. It keeps things moving. It keeps things progressing. If somebody says yes, they know there's something right the next day or day after that they can get their business started with. They're not doing something once a week, once a month. It's a very quick way to build. They talked about always staying in control of your business, working down with the new person, and
Mm-hmm.
not waiting for someone else in your business to do the follow up, or someone else to do their business to help you with your business thing. We're all mentors, and everyone is part of a group. So he talked about staying in control. Attending all events is a big one. They always just hit home
Yeah.
that we should be there no matter what. And they talked about the only reasons they ever missed. And it was interesting to hear that personal side. And my favorite is always do what you say you're going to do. They said you can't do anything in life, any business. That experience came from, we're learning character traits that apply and build confidence in the people we're attracting.
I
Um,
mean, I was
and
gonna
we need to
say
do
it
that.
feels like these are life skills that you can really apply even outside of your LifeVantage business. These are
Absolutely.
really great life skills to have.
That's why I think principles are important, because you learn to, we teach principles, and then people kind of figure out which ones are important to them and which ones they want to work on and which ones they're not good at, and they can slowly tweak that. And the last one is just promoting those things and promoting the next event and promoting what's coming, being good at edifying and promoting. And if you can just master those 5, now there's a lot of skills. Just to say go do 15 presentations, it takes a lot around databasing and a good invite that Marcy taught. It takes a good presentation and good follow up, and somebody enrolling and having them have a very good database to help the next generation of people come in. And so it has to all be moving at the same time. So there's skills involved with a lot of these principles, but they did a great job teaching both. And so I had probably the most feedback from people. Maybe that's just the group I attended with them, but they're
Yeah.
like, man, this is what I needed. I've been missing. I got 2 of these principles down. I need to work on the other 3. And
Yeah.
people left there again with a checklist of things to work on, and that's what we needed.
That's what we want, right? Something to take
Absolutely.
away. We need to the key is always, I always say, if I don't have a notebook and pen in something like that with me, I sit there and I hear these absolute nuggets and these amazing things that I think I'll never forget that, and I love that, and it hit home. And if I don't write it down and I don't walk away with something tangible that I can take with me, I forget, and I don't do it and I don't apply it. And so I think I love that it was happening, and I love that people were going, okay, I can take this with me and I can do this when I get home. That's
Yeah.
important.
If
All
you
right.
can leave
Well,
an
let's,
event with a list of things to do, you can leave an event with action items.
yes.
And I'm making these changes. And if we go to an event, we get excited, we go home, and 2 days later, the excitement's gone, we're back to ourselves. I just don't know if we progress the company, our personal businesses. We don't. But when we build belief in the company, the industry, we go home with a bigger belief in ourselves, some of those important things that we're taught all week. That's where movement comes from and momentum comes from. So having the concept of breaking through the Momentum Academy, I mean, you start thinking of some of these, the reasons they're there. They're literal reminders of what we're doing there and why we're there and what we're supposed to take away. So I agree.
Yeah. Well, speaking of breakthrough, I mean, let's shift gears and talk about general sessions and our keynote speaker, Brian Brio. Wow. Tell me your thoughts on that. I I loved the interaction and the breaking of the boards part, and really getting people to visualize the concept of breaking through.
I think I didn't. I just tell you this. You're right. I think that there's a lot of energy that came from that, and
Yeah.
to watch the individual change in a big group meeting. That's hard to do as a presenter, and I think that's to give Brian the credit that he's been doing it a long time. He's mastered the ability to take a large group and do individual things. When we're mentoring a handful of people, or 20 in a room, or leadership meeting, and we can go around the room and have a conversation and it's fun. But when you have thousands in a room, sometimes I can just imagine him thinking we're going to do something very individual and break through into a large group. So he has mastered the ability to get through
Yeah.
individually to a group. Now that's the first thing I noticed, and that was one of my takeaways, because I'm taking stuff away. How do I do this better as we're teaching, and how do I apply this to my business? Not just the breakthrough piece, but some of the skill sets that people bring, and the talents, and the principles that they bring. He talked about one of my favorites was just, where are you living? And he said, write it down on a scale of 1 to 10, right? Trying, again, making a big conversation. You in your life, where are you at? Where do you want to change? And that piggybacks some of the things that I believe and spoke about, is about we have to be willing to change at any moment who we are to who we want to become. And there's a
Mhm.
breakthrough component to that. And then we had to not only say where we are, but write down what's holding us back from the next
Yeah.
number on that list. I don't know if it's a 5 to a 6, or 8 to a 9, or 9 to a 10, but what is it? And so you can find an individual piece that needs to be worked on. And then just, wow, to go to be one of the holders and to watch people come up. Some of them were worried. I had some poor lady who swung at the board twice and didn't even hit the board. I mean, it was one of those things where I was just, is this going to actually work? And we
Yeah.
stopped, we talked through it. We did some examples without the board there, put the board up, and she did it. And it was, the whole group around us just came alive. And to see an actual breakthrough mentally in front
Mhm.
of us. My daughter came up, she's in her wheelchair, and there was a crowd that gathered around instantly when she came up. I knew, others didn't know, she's actually used as boxing as a cardio, because when you don't use your legs to get cardio, you have to use your upper body.
To
So I
have
was kind of
really strong
giggling.
upper body.
I was kind of giggling at her. She looked at that little board and she's like, she's just a pounding on a bag. So
She was
she hit
kinda
that
like,
thing.
"This looks too easy for me."
Yeah, she hit it so hard, and it cracked, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh!" And it was fun. Brian actually came down and
That's
told her he was
cool.
going to bring her up to have her break the first board, but didn't know how the cameras could work down there
Yeah.
and things like that. And so, anyways, it was just fun to have a little personal piece in
Yeah.
there. But to see the line of people and people coming up, and then to have someone come up and say, "Hey, can you help me hold mine?" One of the other holders said, "Hey, I didn't get to break mine, and I didn't do mine either. We switched." And but just everyone leave there with their board, 2 pieces. You see the
Yeah.
breakthrough. You can hold them. You can take them home. It's a great reminder. What a great speaker! I
That was fun.
respect him and what he brought, and the way he was very careful around any personal stuff that he brought, but he was very willing to unload and share anything he's learned to help us
Mhm.
get from point A to point B quicker. If we have things in our way, he was a great person to help push through some of those things, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Well, outside of that, because that was really a highlight. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of excitement around that. What was the biggest, just you personally, your favorite or biggest aha moment during the general sessions? Or was there one? Or was there something that just really stood out to you throughout the general sessions?
Yeah, in general, I used to, and I teach this a lot actually, is I'll do an entire presentation. And one time I went on a limb and I actually got some people out of the audience and pulled them up, and based off of their notes, I was very close with guessing how long they've been in the business and what their rank was, and some of their products experiences, or some of their comp planned experiences. And I was just like, it's amazing to see what people hone in on, because we really do build this business in phases. And so what I got out of it is everyone's information fit my mentality of way I build in phases. It fit this idea that I'm starting out, I'm learning, I'm inviting, I'm just enrolling, and I can use others so much in my business during that process. And then eventually I got to stop learning and I got to start doing, right? I'm the one doing the presentation, and then might have a note card and I may not be great at it, but I'm involved with the actual actions of explaining and educating and teaching, and I'm talking to guests and I'm helping guests. And then you have what I would consider this third phase, where you're now talking to consultants. It's the Robin Summers and the Tylers and Marcy's who actually taught and was able to get on stage and teach those things.
Mm-hmm.
They are in that other phase where they're not only talking to guests now, they're actually talking to consultants, and they're mentoring. They're mentoring the next generation or the next group of leaders that are upcoming. And so you don't expect that out of a brand new person. And so and then I think you get presidentials and people have been around a while and have done it as well. And now you're thinking, how do I not only mentor some people, but how do I hand out 20 fishing poles and teach people how to hand 10 of those out to the next group?
Yeah.
It's not just handing them a fish. It's not just teaching them. It's actually handing out more mentors to mentor the next generation. It's the mentoring the mentors, right? And it's a whole nother phase. It's a fourth phase. So what I took out of there might be different than someone else, but I can tell you that what I did take, and this is just as a 30,000 foot view, is everything seemed to fit in four categories. And it actually wrapped up nice when I got up on the stage at the end, because it seemed to me like when people are going to move, it's because they believe they can, believe it works. And that goes for if they believe the product works and they believe it can work for them, they'll be a customer. If they believe the business works and it can work for them, then we have a great business partner. But we need to understand that the industry has strengths. The industry is different than corporate America. And I think a lot of messages went into that bucket and helped people say this industry is incredible. And then you have the company itself. You had people bragging about and showing, and we had people that didn't build outside in another company and they just came over to teach about something. That's what I loved about Brian. Brian brought in a message about breaking through wherever you're at. The training came from those in this company who built it with this, in this company with these products, with this corporate staff, and we're all working together and they had success. And then you have the belief in that industry and this company within the industry that allows us to have some confidence. And then you have the product belief, the couple of videos that were shown at the very end. And I loved, and I always try to thank all those guys that are working behind the scenes. I think even Jeff's on this call behind the scene, and I love it. And I thank you guys. There's some amazing stuff that came out that helps us to visually show something that's very complex. Because the more we have to think, we have to be complex and understand it in that level, our business takes forever to build. So if we can hit play on a video and hand them something or send them something to answer the bigger questions, and us not have to be a doctor or a CPA or whatever category you're going into to be that big. Now, I don't think it wipes our hands clean of learning some of those things, but it does take the stress off early on in our businesses to not have to do that. Yeah. Absolutely. And then you had the last piece, which is yourself. The rest of the conversation seemed to build belief in yourself. And that's kind of what I try to end on, is just this idea that we all started somewhere. We all started with this idea that, man, if this doesn't work, and what if this and what if that? And then my simple answer, yeah, but what if it does? Because I had to ask that, and we've actually tested it and proved it. And we've actually came out the other side with some really cool benefits and stories that we can talk about, we can show, we can prove. And if you can build trust and belief in those four areas, that creates movement. People will get out of their little worry, what if stuff, and they can create movement. And that's what we're seeing right now, is a lot more movement in the field. It needs to continue, and it doesn't. The stats don't change overnight. We need to understand that this kind of excitement takes months to have things come to fruition, because seeds get planted, things get changed, that pendulum swings back and forth. With product and business, and how do I explain both, and how do I have a message that's full of everything. And it takes a little bit for us to figure out and fine tune our own message. But once that starts to happen as a group, individually we have bumps all the time in businesses, but when you see the whole company move, it's when those voices are together and moving at the same time. It's like lifting a piano, right? If you just lift where you stand and do your part, it's one of my favorite quotes, lift where you stand, right? Everyone grab hold, lift the best you can, whether you're brand new, whether you've been here a while, whether you're, one of the presidentials and you're on an advisory board and you're helping discuss with corporate some of the bigger things, whatever that piece is lift hard, lift together, and we're going to see some things happen. And all four of those categories seem to be not only touched on, but filled. Confidence, trust could be built off of that. And I think that's what I took home, was the fact that everyone could find what they needed within those categories. If they were missing anything, I think it was somewhere in those 2-day event to take home for sure.
I agree. And I love that you framed it that way, that there really was something for everyone. And I truly feel like there was at this event, that regardless of what rank you're at, where you live, what your team's like, all the different things, like there was something for everyone to take away and be able to apply. So, Blue, thank you so much. We have really, like I said, I feel like we have given a really good overview of what the event was like, but there's nothing like being there in person. We didn't, we of course had our healthcare professionals meeting. We had a lot of big announcements too that we haven't even talked about. We had our leadership meeting that all of our ACs and above attend. We had our fun Viva Las Vegas party that was legit a party, and tons of fun. So if you weren't there, I hope that this helps bring some feeling and information to you that you missed. But if you weren't there, make sure that you are at convention and at the next upcoming events. Rather, that's local events. I know the sales team is headed out, and there are a lot of different events happening all over the US in the next couple of months. And then we've got convention coming up. We've got some fun things happening. So, Blue, any last words that you would like to just round out with?
There's two things, and I was kind of saving this for the end. One is because I didn't really don't want to even to get emotional about it, but I got to share the stage with Steve at the very end, and you mentioned some big announcements, and I didn't know how and when that was going to come up on this call, but I think it's appropriate just to say that we have some things coming, and it was announced, and it's fun, and but to have Steve get up there and just the respect that was shown for him, the love for him, the heart and soul that he's put into this company, the things he's had to learn and grow from his training coming in, which is very symbolic of what we all do. We come in with some background and some professional training, but we come in and we may have to evolve in doing things that
Yeah.
we're not normally used to, and did a great job. And I just wanted to thank him personally. I think this was a great tribute to that. We have this little interim piece because that other stuff's coming, and so we won't spend a ton of time on that because it may create a lot of questions until it's actually here. But it looks promising. We're excited. But for now, I just want to say, you guys get to the next one. You never know what is going to be said, what nugget's going to be shared, what piece that you can take home. And it's sometimes not even from the person you thought it would be. It's fun how that usually portrays. And this time it was Steve sharing. And again, I heard some of these principles and behaviors shared from Steve's, and it was fun to see him where he came from to mastering this industry from a CEO point of view. What a cool way to end that event as well. So thank you, Steve, and thank you, Mindy. Even yourself behind scenes, you gather everything up. You kind of herd the cats and keep things moving. But you guys all have such an input into this, and the event would not be the same without all of you behind scenes. So thank you, and thank
Oh,
all the corporate staff, and we appreciate you.
well, and be sure to tune in. We, like Blue kind of mentioned, he was so gracious and willing to close out the event for us, which is a big ask, and that is a lot to do that. And Blue, you did an absolutely phenomenal job. If you didn't hear it, I hope that you do at some point, because his presentation left you really thinking and thinking, what are the possibilities, and why am I thinking small, and I need to really look bigger. And so that was my big takeaway, Blue, from what you shared, and I'm grateful that you did, and thankful. So thanks again for joining me. I know that you've got a busy life, busy week, busy day, all the things. So thanks
Thank you
for
so
taking.
much. A lot of people are preparing for tour stops right now, a lot of the leaders.
Yep.
So find a stop. You'll probably, because of the energy and excitement, you'll hear a little more about the event, I'm sure, from those stops.
Oh, yeah.
And be able to piggyback and build your business from that. So a lot of us are preparing for those here in the weeks and upcoming weeks. So
Be sure to
but yeah,
check
we'll see you there.
the Big Blue calendar, all of where corporate will be, and also leaders that are hosting events on their own should be on there. So make sure you check that, and if there's something close to you, get to it. So, all right, thank you, Activation.
Thank you.
And thank you, Blue, and we will see you soon. Talk to you next week.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Activation Nation podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for future episodes and updates, and share with a friend or prospect that you think could benefit from today's conversation. Check the episode description for any links or disclaimers, and we'll see you next week for another episode. And now, the legal stuff. The sales earnings disclosed are potential gross earnings and do not account for expenses incurred in building a business. The average 12-month earnings of a typical U.S. consultant who earned in 2024 are $683. LifeVantage does not guarantee any income or rank success. A consultant's earnings will depend on individual diligence, work effort, and market conditions. Visit the LifeVantage Income Disclosure Statement for more information.